Over the past couple years, people have been hooked on Bitcoin through starting to grok Lightning, which is a what if I could send a payment to my child abroad on a Sunday night when my bank was closed.
The need is there immediately today, and it's extremely acute in so many parts of the world. It's not just a nice to have, and it's not just a hobbyist tool. It's like you can really change lives immediately by improving these rails. Oh, this is great. I love being back here in Venice. This is actually where it all started for me and Mrs. Swan. We came out here for a month in November of 2012 from Chicago, and it was how I convinced her to move to LA, because we got back, I think, December 5th or December 6th to Chicago, and I think it was 6 degrees. And the next day she called the movers and started figuring out how to get out here. So we're on 10 years, and it all started in Venice, which is crazy. Alyse has been one of my favorite people in the Bitcoin space for the last couple of years, just watching her develop her venture capital firm, Stillmark. Alyse, we're going to get into a little bit more on your background and on what Stillmark is up to, but here on this particular day that we are filming this, what's the date? March 6th? It's March 6th. There's some crazy stuff going on in the banking world right now. Give me just your kind of hot take this day that Silicon Valley Bank stock price is down 80% since yesterday close. What is going on?
So today is March 9th, and
9th.
Silicon Valley Bank is in the process of undergoing a bank run. So I did not think that within my lifetime I would participate in such a thing, but today was the day. And it was a reminder of how important, frankly, Bitcoin and the new financial system that we're helping to build and participating in really is. I think that sometimes folks of greater privilege feel that they are sort of impervious to some of the dangers of the current financial system that we live within, and things like the events of today and whatever will unfold tomorrow and next week remind us that Bitcoin is important just for all of us, really. And it's a matter of frequency with which we're reminded of that. And if you have privilege, maybe it's only in a black swan sort of event that you're reminded. But I have to say that today was another day where it occurred to me how really brilliant Satoshi was with what he introduced, well over a decade ago. And so that's the context of tonight's talk, where the backdrop is a bank run with one of the most established banks in Silicon Valley that's been serving the tech world for decades now.
Yeah, it really is. I mean, a little bit more color there. I mean, they've been around 40 years. This is like the bank that you want to bank with when you start a startup if you are backed by Silicon Valley VCs. And it's not small. This is a top 15 or top 20 bank by market cap, publicly listed, and this is happening. And this is, the same week, earlier this week, Silvergate, which has been one of the top 2 banks that has been banking the crypto sector over the last half decade or so, decided to go into liquidation. Basically, they've shut down all of their operations, or are in the process of doing so. Alyse, if you could tease that one apart, what is the impact of Silvergate shutting down on crypto versus what is its impact on Bitcoin?
So I think for Bitcoin and for crypto, Silvergate shutting down is actually more impactful than the issues that SVB is suffering now. SVB really doesn't bank people in the Bitcoin industry, and so folks have asked if our portfolio has much exposure to what's happening at Silicon Valley Bank right now, and it doesn't, because Silicon Valley Bank won't bank Bitcoin companies. Silvergate differentiated itself by being of service to folks in our space. And so I don't know much more than what's been said publicly, but I certainly am disappointed and think that those folks, I'm rooting for them. And I think they did or attempted to do really good work for our field. I imagine you would say the same.
I have a little bit of a different perspective on Silvergate in particular, just because I think they're pretty irrelevant to Bitcoin companies. I think the main thing that they were useful for was crypto funds and crypto exchanges, basically being able to transfer funds very quickly and seamlessly and inexpensively to each other on a private ledger at Silvergate on SEN. And then obviously it's nice if you had a crypto-friendly bank to hold your operating accounts when a lot of times other banks would bounce you. So they're kind of the dual things. Both pretty irrelevant to Bitcoin companies because Bitcoin is not a security. It's not in a gray area unregistered security. And even though occasionally you might get debanked like Swan did, thanks Citibank in November, there's still plenty of other banks there and willing to bank your business if you sit down with somebody and like explain what you do and they're like, oh, that's not scary. Whereas all of this leverage and this offshore and this shadiness that happens in the crypto space, the non-Bitcoin crypto space, certainly raises the risk flags for these banking institutions.
Right. So if the bank understands that Bitcoin is different than crypto, they will bank you. And not all banks are there yet. And so it's disappointing to see Silvergate have issues. I think there's a lot of companies that do work with crypto that also provide value for Bitcoin and
Amazon and Google.
Sure. Yeah.
Some law firms, some accountants.
Right. Yes, exactly.
Yeah. It's hard to divorce yourself completely from anyone that would ever provide infrastructure or be a vendor to your company and be a purist. There's no such thing. But anyway, so listen, let's get into your story a little bit. We were so fortunate to have you be a part of the inaugural Pacific Bitcoin in November. Next one's coming up October 5th and 6th here in Santa Monica, PB23. Get your tickets. Hopefully we'll have Alyse back again for another starring role. But for those that didn't catch you and didn't learn much about you then, just tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got into venture capital and how that led to your interest in Bitcoin.
Sure. So I've been in venture capital for a little over a decade, starting in the LA venture capital world with a couple firms that were focused really on infrastructure tech and enterprise tech. And so when I came to Bitcoin in 2013, I found it really as an infrastructure tech and as an infrastructure that had the potential to fairly bank the unbanked or the underbanked. And so to me, Bitcoin seemed like fintech for poor people, and that's a massive market. And so as now today a generalist VC with deep expertise in Bitcoin and Lightning and in mining, we can know a lot and still want to be really pretty exclusively focused on Bitcoin because it's the largest opportunity, and that's twofold. It's the largest opportunity in terms of impact and cultural significance. And then I think it's also one of the largest, if not the largest, opportunities for venture returns. And so we're thinking about both things, really. This relates also to my background prior to entering venture capital in that both of my grandfathers were entrepreneurs. And so to sort of see, I have a real respect for creatives, and that's both for folks in the art world and then the parallel in the business world, which is entrepreneurs. And so the opportunity to work in venture capital in a field where the work has the effect of banking people and democratizing access to financial tools, I feel really grateful to be here.
Yeah, it's been great to watch just as you've gotten involved in some amazing Bitcoin companies, and it feels like you're trying to own the index of the next leg up for the Bitcoin ecosystem, and I love that approach.
We want to back the best builders. So in Fund 1, we've been really focused on investing in infrastructure. So that's looked both like that. We think about it in three buckets. So we've backed companies that are helping to financialize BTC, the asset, and the infrastructure that will be important there. We're investing in the Lightning space. That's everything from core protocol. For example, we've invested in Lightning Labs, to companies like Voltage, providing support like AWS would for folks using and building on the web, to companies like Amboss. That's like a Waze of the Lightning Network. And so effectively, all of those companies should help make Lightning networks seamless for payments. And then the third bucket is that we're also investing in mining. So both mining companies and mining software.
I want to go a click deeper on Lightning in particular. And my question there is like, try to zoom up to like 30,000 feet and just tell us like where we are and what our expectations should be around sort of Lightning mass adoption, timing. Obviously, this kind of ties into your estimation of when Bitcoin will be sort of widely used as a medium of exchange, let's say in the Western world. But also you can sprinkle in some stories of what's already going on in the global south and emerging markets, and kind of, you know, the future is everywhere. It's just not widely distributed. So where are we with Lightning and where are we going?
So the most frequent question we get asked by folks that we meet that are new or newish to Bitcoin is, when will we be able to feel like Lightning Network is in the background? So people over the past couple of years, people have been hooked on Bitcoin through starting to grok Lightning, which is what if I could send a payment to my child abroad on a Sunday night when my bank was closed? Or what if it was just sort of easier and felt more secure to transact online? So those folks get that Lightning could be valuable, but feel like it's still hard. And so we get asked a lot about when will it just be in the background? And the answer to that really is that the technology that will enable that is just developing in sort of final stages now. So it's a really exciting period. And on top of that, the influence on development has been really healthy. So, and that's related to adoption. So let me say a little bit more about that. We've seen through leaders in emerging markets that have leaned into Bitcoin and to Lightning Network specifically, for instance, in El Salvador, that taking that risk has sort of put them to the front of the line in terms of providing feedback and direction for the development of Lightning Network. And so what that's done is help to inform how developers are building at the protocol level and then infrastructure on top of that. And I think that's really important because where we expect to see adoption really happen most robustly first is in emerging markets, where people are unbanked and need access to the Lightning Network as rails just to go about their daily lives more efficiently. And so one of the things that's emerged from that is the idea of USDT or digital dollars on Lightning. And so what that will help us do is sort of Trojan attack the Bitcoin opportunity in emerging markets, in that people that need these rails to send cross-border payments for remittances or just to make simple payments and adopt a Lightning Network, even if it's for digital dollars, will then have a Bitcoin wallet on their phone. And so they may start off first by a need for payments, and then as they become more assured with the technology, when they have an opportunity to save, can save in Bitcoin.
Yeah, it really is exciting. And I'll tell a little story of something that I came across about a month ago in conversation with an entrepreneur. I feel like a lot of times here in the West, we just think of this as kind of a nice to have, and it's like cool. So there's people that maybe they only own Bitcoin because they've been in since 2011, and so they have to spend Bitcoin, and so they're very enthusiastic about it. And otherwise, if you're in the West, it's basically hobbyists and plebs and people that want to test things out and want to try it that are spending. But there's actually an acute need, and it's literally life and death in some other parts of the world, being able to access Bitcoin via the Lightning Network. So the story that really kind of is most sort of top of mind for me, again, I was talking to an entrepreneur in the Philippines about a month ago, and he got into Bitcoin about 2 years ago, and it happened because he was in Manila, and his family member of his best friend had a life-threatening emergency and needed to go to the hospital, and in Manila, you have to prepay. And he and a couple other people around them have plenty of money, but it's in U.S. bank accounts. And he was struggling and trying to wire the money and trying to get the money there. And this family member passed away because they couldn't get medical treatment. So the need is there immediately today, and it's extremely acute in so many parts of the world. And it's not just a nice to have, and it's not just a hobbyist tool. It's like you can really change lives immediately by improving these rails. So I don't know, I got another kick in the butt. I know Swan, my company, is like really focused on Bitcoin as an asset and a store of value, and we do some things with medium of exchange, and we'll do more in the future. But I'm really glad that there are funds that are focused a lot more on pushing forward on medium of exchange and focused on emerging markets, because those needs are today and they really are solving huge problems.
That's right. And so another exciting thing that we're seeing is because there are these acute needs in emerging markets that Lightning and Bitcoin can address, is we're seeing a flourishing really of entrepreneurial activity in those markets where the need is better understood, frankly. And so one of the things that has been really fun to be a part of at Stillmark is to back some of these founders that are in market, finding ways for Bitcoin to help solve their problems. And that has happened both through Lightning, but also through mining. And I think you know this, Cory, but as an example on the mining side, one of our recent investments was in a very experienced founder team coming out of Kenya that had been thinking for a long time about how to energize the half of the country that doesn't yet have electricity. And the issue there is not that there's not an abundance of potential electricity. The issue is financing new generation. And the reason for that is that it's hard to understand or project the creditworthiness of new off-takers, or to accurately predict the initial off-take demand. But what Bitcoin mining can do is act as an anchor tenant so that you can produce a return on your investment in that new generation. And this company, Gridless, is putting Bitcoin to work for that. So to help electrify off-grid households and communities in Africa. There's just a lot that can be done here. And it's really a pleasure to be a part of it. And I think that, we probably only see just the surface now of what will happen. And I feel very grateful to be along with these founders that have the ambition to really do the work and figure it out.
Raise your hand if you are a parent. I know we've got some parents in the crowd here. Okay. I mean, my wife is here, so we're going to get at least one response. The Kylies are in the house. All right, good. Okay. So this is fun. Alyse, what should an 8-year-old know about Bitcoin?
That's a great question. So I suppose what I would hope is that they know through Bitcoin that they can be better connected to other 8-year-olds or to folks across the globe. And so in the way that the internet and World Wide Web connected folks for discussion, Bitcoin can connect folks to transact and explore. And so probably 8-year-olds today will find Bitcoin through social activities, including gaming, and different forms of chat and open communication with their friends. And so that's another area of entrepreneurship we've been really interested to see. So here's a trend, Cory. It's not just Bitcoin founders building now, it's folks from other industries with deep expertise that are finding that Bitcoin and Lightning makes their work better in their own field. We're really seeing that in gaming, including gaming for Gen Z. So it's looking at how younger folks engage and meeting them there. And that's about being direct peer-to-peer with your buddies.
Absolutely love that. Thank you, Alyse, for joining us.
Thank you for having me. What a pleasure.
We appreciate you always.
Likewise.
Aloha. So the price of Bitcoin goes up.
No sell button. No sell button.
Bitcoin